Today is all about the Kong Oka. It's been a long time overdue for this video, and today I'm going to show you everything I like about it and why I switched over to this as my rappel only device. Of course, I think this device is worth it. I'm making a whole video about it, but I want you to see and understand just why I like that. So I'm not going to just sit here and tell you that it's good and these are the things I like about it. I'm going to try to show you, even with this scale today, just about how much effort, roughly. I know there's better ways and better devices. I'm not that well equipped, but it'll at least give you an idea of one of the main features I like about this device itself. So stick around. If you like this content, if it's really helpful for you to get something like this, please like, subscribe. Gives me a better feel if this is working well for you. So let's get into it. So how am I really going to show you what I like about this? Well, I got myself a Saddle Hunter's hitch up here hoisted in the tree. I got myself two Longhorn Agile hitches. I'm set up on my primary bridge, and on my secondary bridge here I got myself the Kong Oka Fashion on. I'll show you a little bit more of the setup itself. Really want to try to dive into a little bit more about this device in working session. Let's just see how much effort it takes me to hold and stop a rappel while this is under load, because I think for me that's one of the bigger factors I really liked about this device, is just how versatile it can be. So they have documented many ways, and I actually have that booklet right here for you. You can see, if you haven't already, I showed this off in another video at this point. These are just all the ways that the manufacturer has documented how to and how not to use this device, just so you can see what the acceptable implementations are and any considerations you need to make. I'll talk about that a little bit, really this top area you see up here, because that's important. I didn't know about that. It took me a little bit of trial and error to get it right. But so we don't need that really anymore at this point, but I want you to see that that's important, because the manufacturer itself has even said that those solutions are ones they tested and signed off on. So another supporting factor for this. But you can see here I have a very basic setup at this point. I'll be showing it in different orientations with this setup. I'll then also demonstrate it in this setup as well. All these are going to add more or less friction depending on how it's implemented. There are other ways to do it. I'm not going to go through every single one of them. I'm mostly just going to focus on a few that I have used myself to manage the friction and tension that I need, because again, that's one of the big first points that I found to really like about this device itself. So I'll show those implementations there. I'm going to be doing so from a safe orientation, so you can see this is how I do my testing on things like this. Boots are pretty close to the ground at this point, like I'm not really that far away, because we don't need to get that high. I don't need to get all the way up there just to be able to say, hey, let's see how this sucker works. But I will show it in action then once we get toward the end of this, so stick around. What I'm also going to do, I'm doing this in DSRT at this point. Thankfully what I did was I took the leaving in off the device itself and just did a simple overhand bite here, really just putting these two ears in. What I will be doing, I will take this scale here, and this is a bow scale. It goes up to about 110 pounds. Not going to need 110 pounds. I already did testing on this. You're going to be surprised in the numbers that you see here. So just so you know, I weigh 200 pounds today. Today I weigh 200 pounds. Sometimes I'm more than that. And I will actually show an image on the screen. You'll see it somewhere up here just to show proof. I was on the scale before I came out here. You can see those lovely boots in the image there as well, just as proof. But 200 pounds today, that's without the saddle and all this. So we're gonna see just how much of my body weight in proportion I'm gonna need in effort on this scale. So if you're not familiar with how one of these works, essentially you put the hook on the one end, and as you pull, the scale goes up. I'm going to do my best to make sure you guys can see those numbers. If not, make sure those numbers are being displayed on the screen as well, just in case you're having a hard time seeing them. So with that, let's get into it. So let's get myself set up and oriented. So with the Oka, what I really like is just how easy it is to kind of get myself set up and positioned in the right orientation at that point. It doesn't take much effort really once you're kind of getting this set to the right height. Just simple tug on that. There's not like it's really getting locked off or getting snagged up. If you're not really sure, I guess I should start with how you really get this fastened and where it starts out. So normally if I were climbing on my hitches up here at this point, I get to my height and I want to tie in my rappel. So with the Kong Oka, there is this rubber boot that they have here to really keep this from rattling around on you. It really does help with some of that noise canceling. It is important to note that the thickness of the bar on the carabiner for this portion of it that's going to feed in does need to meet the specs listed in the document. I believe it's at 11 millimeters. I'm using a DMM Ceros in this case, and you might think this was the Rhino, and the Rhino looked very similar. The Rhino just doesn't have this little clip or spring you see here. I went with the Ceros for that spring because I wanted to make sure keep this nice and oriented no matter where I am in the climb. For me, for my setup, I want everything to be well relatively where I expect it to be. I don't really like it flopping around and getting stuck anywhere. I can essentially tie this off somewhere else. Even if I were then climbing with the Garda to ascend with this, I can still keep this position like this while that's connected in for my ascension. So this really stays out of the way. The rubber boot really does keep it locked off again. You'll see that in action a little bit later here. But for now, really just talking about the feature of the ground level. So that's one other feature here. That's just like the Rhino would have, is this little horn that you see on the end here, really on the top. So that horn there is really going to help if this were to ever slide down. It's not going to slide all the way down and become a side load. It's really going to keep this oriented. And this isn't really that easy to move. Once you kind of get a set in place, this rubber boot does grab on really tight on the Oka. Which is another nice thing. You really don't have to worry about it flopping around or getting stuck anywhere. So this orientation, this sort of configuration, I've come to really like with using the Oka. You can get this device where they already have a carabiner fit for it that comes with like a package deal. I forget what the price is on it. I can link that in the description down below here in the video, but you can go with other carabiners, but again, just remember the specification on that. This is important. If you get something that is too big, you're essentially going to mangle the boot and it's not going to fit. And if you take the boot out, it's not really advised on that too. There is another version of the Oka without the boot if you did not desire that in there. For us in hunting situations, we want to mitigate as much rattling as possible. So for me, the boot was the win, and going with the right spec was where I went with this. Again, I'll link this device, that package, and the device, the Oka itself, down in the description below. So don't worry, you don't have to go looking too hard with it. So, but that's just the overall construction, my configuration with attaching to my saddle. So let's get into it. All this talk, and I want to see this thing in action, Mike. Don't you worry, I am getting there. So I'm going to pull in just a simple bite. We'll start with a simple test in this case, and you'll see when they document the solutions, you can either keep it in front, and those of you that are doing DSRT as well, you'll probably find that it's going to be an easier orientation, but it does also note that you can get it behind the ear as well. You just might find that when it exits off the right side, depending on the diameter of your rope. This is Canyon Elite, by the way, 9 millimeter. So this wheel with a thicker rope, try to almost roll out of here a little bit, but nothing that ever ends up popping out of place or disorienting from my experience to this point. And based on the specification, there's nothing wrong that I saw with doing this here. So the basic orientation would just be this, but I'm going to go ahead and start with what I typically end up doing when I climb. So if you didn't really follow that, which not really that hard to do, get your slack out, right? In this case, slack is out, got my tension. I would go back behind the way this is being fed in. I would come up through the bottom of this cleat. Calling this a cleat because for those of you that may be familiar with the marine lifestyle, looks like a boat cleat to you. That's what it looks like to me. But come up over the front and around down the back, and this is essentially where I would then tend off to the side here to control my descent. So let's go ahead and let's do our first test using that. So as I'm getting set up, just a reminder again, I weigh 200 pounds. So I'm expecting, I want to have as little effort as possible. Let's put it that way. I don't really want to be having to hold 100 pounds on this exit line just in order to stay in position, especially when we get sitting in a hunting position for a while all day long. That gets tiring. Like, you're tired, you're worn out, maybe you went and snuck out for a hunt just for the afternoon, you saw a good opportunity and you're a little worn down from the work day. The last thing we need is using energy and effort that we don't have. So all right, got scale here, tar it off. I got it at 0. Happy face. We're going to be very happy by the end of this. So, all right, so that's zeroed out at this point. Happy with that. Really just going to hold this off to the side here. 2 fingers on it. I'm going to pull this way to manage it. And let's go ahead and put the load onto the Oka. So now what's important here is, like any rappel situation, you want to be able to get, especially when you're using friction hitches here, you want all the load off. You see here, there's like, this is all slack, my primary bridge. I am now officially all loaded on this, the Kong Oka at this point. Like, there's just nothing here. And that's what we want, that's ideal. We don't want to have to depend on the friction hitches. Our friction hitches are not being used for the rappel. They're there as a brake and a backup to the device, so that eventually once this lengthens out and we let the tension off of this trying to brake these, this will stop us if we need be. But I don't want to depend on that as I'm going down. So here I am, and my boots up on the tree there, you can see. Really trying to put some stress and tension there. See the we're not moving, okay? So, and I'm holding off here, holding off back here, as you can see, just enough so it's not moving, which of course if I pull harder we can push the numbered one way or another. But all right, I'm able to operate this, move these around, and I'm still holding on. No one else is holding me down there. There's not a chair under my butt or something like that. So I can still use this hand freely, and this ain't going anywhere. So all right, let's come down off of that. There we go. See, we broke it, got it through. How much weight? All right, so I don't know if you can see that, but 1032. Trying to move that around in case you're not picking up. Number will be on the screen. So 1032. That's 10 pounds I'm doing here. And again, I weigh 200 pounds, so that's going to only be 5% of my body weight that I have to use in force. I know I sounded like I had to really think about that, but I can do math. I promise you I can do math. But that's only about 5% of my body weight there doing this orientation, which is great for me. Like, so that felt like practically no effort to be able to do that itself. So let's do another test. Let's do the same thing. Let's just get up there on it again. Going along for all my camera angles today. But you're seeing me do this test live. Like in action, not necessarily live. It wouldn't be live. I mean, I did this video on one day, you're seeing it posted the next day, so of course it's not live. But seeing me go through the steps here, putting it to the test, and zero that out again. All right, let's get into it. Put the load all on the Oka, let's bounce around. See a little sliding there. We're good though, we're not moving, hands free. Got tension out to here. There's the device in my hand. Moving, moving, moving. All right, let's step out of there. Let's let ourselves come down, actually. There we go. Cool. What do we got? All right, 6 pounds, 6.8, almost 7 pounds there. Even less. So obviously I know I don't have maybe the best equipment for doing something like this, but it's giving you some kind of relative idea, right? So 10 pounds, 5, less than 5% of my body weight. Again, doing this orientation that you're seeing right here. So let's try doing a different orientation. I'm going to go ahead and just roll this way. Okay, so your bite comes through on the Oka. We would manage our slack. Let's get these friction hitches out of our way. Get the slack out, work them up. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull this bite right over here. So again, bite went through, around the back, behind the ear, up over the top, and that's it. This is just another way I've done it. This is not going to have as much friction on it at this point. which if say I was on the lighter side, like in the summertime, I can tend to drop a little bit after walking some rounds of golf. I don't need that much, right? So this is another way I can implement it now. So, all right, completely deload it, completely on the yoke here. Let's bounce around. I can tell you this is a little bit more effort for me to do so, just stand here doing this. I wouldn't normally bounce around, but I'm trying to simulate if something were to happen in this orientation where I had to move or do work or operate something here, moving the friction hitches around. Got tension down here on the device itself, making sure you can see it. A little tough when the camera's just attached to your head, but let's let this slip a little bit more. All right, let's see what we got in terms of a number on that. All right, so that went up. I don't know if you can see that well. Again, I'll put the number on the screen, 12.42. So we're getting a little bit more effort necessary on something like that. Let's go ahead and cancel that out. Let's do it one more time, see what other number we get. And of course, I could probably do, if I really wanted to get granular with the numbers, I'd probably run this test scenario, 20, 30 times and really see what my deviations are. I didn't go to that extent in this case. I'm just trying to give you some samples here so you can get an idea how it's working for me. So I encourage you to do any of this testing yourself, same way I'm doing here. So, all right, we're getting it loaded, unloaded on the hitches. Once again, we are back on the device itself, bouncing around. Got the device out here, putting tension on it. Let's try to get a little more load. I'll try to push away from the tree a little bit here. All right, stopping, holding. All right, that's what it's taking for me to hold that. Coming in at 14 pounds. All right, so definitely need a little bit more effort in that orientation. So let's do one last one here. All right, so this one, what we're gonna do, I'm just gonna have the bite wrapping around the backside of the ear and just sit out the bottom. So this is simply just relying on that one bite. This is the least amount of friction in this case. This may look very similar to like what a simple figure eight would use in this case, where it just wraps around the back of the body. So very similar construction here, but just with a different device. And if you're not aware, I used to use just the simple figure eight prior to this. That's what I used before, if you're ever curious. I do have a video about what I wish I knew about them before I started. I probably would have went with this device a lot sooner, hence why you're seeing this video even being made. But so if you're curious for that, go ahead and check that out as well, especially if you're liking this. But before you go, please like, subscribe. I need to know if this is working for you all. And if you like the other one, go like that one too. So, all right, let's get this loaded. Okay, simple bite wrap there. Get this all on the yoke. All right, so this is taking much more effort for me. All right, holding. See, I'm really yanking over here. Try to push away from the tree a little more. All right, you really got to hang on to this one. Really putting more effort in on this case here. Okay, that's enough for now. Definitely harder. You can probably hear that by the grimacing in my voice, hopefully. All right, 18, 19 pounds. Definitely going up. Definitely getting harder to do this for sure. Let's do another one, just like we've been doing with all of them. Let's at least do 2 on each. All right, so we got our orientation there. Zeroed out. All right, let's let her go. Let's do this. All right, move a little quick there, but all right, we are on it. Completely unloaded at this point. Bouncing, bouncing, holding, holding, pulling, pulling. Come on, gotta keep that weight off. I need to grab my stick. Oh man, that's hurting my fingers a little bit. All right, let's get off of that. The ring obviously on the device doesn't help that much, making it that comfortable, but All right, let's see here. We got 19.6, 20 pounds almost. So that's about 10% of my body weight. So, so what you should be able to see by now with doing some of these tests here is that the beauty with the oak is just how versatile. Man, look at my fingers. A little bit of effort there, huh? Turned my finger into a carrot practically. Look at both of those. Wow, look at that. Anyway, be careful when testing. Anyway, so hopefully you're seeing with this device by this point the versatility and just how much friction you can control with this, which is a big benefit. Like not all you are going to be the same weight as me when it comes to climbing. Some of you might be lighter, some of you might be heavier. Again, I'm 200 pounds when doing this, so I'm getting anywhere from 10% of needed 10% of my body weight in terms of effort needed compared to just 5% of what I've only needed to do with an orientation like this. Like, I know you can adjust other devices to get more friction added to it, but again, I'm focusing on ones where they documented the implementations itself. That's a big factor to me. If the manufacturer is willing to test it and sign off on it, I'm willing to try it. If they're not willing to try it, neither am I. So that's the big reason why I moved off the Simple 8, because very similar to like how this experience was here, you saw, and now you see the result of my fingers still coming back. Man, they'll be back. A little numb. They'll come back though. But you can see here, like, this was definitely a lot more effort and friction here. Now, keep in mind some other considerations to be made here. I already mentioned your weight. The rope is going to matter too, and the style of climbing you're going to do. I only did this in DSRT. If you want to see me do this same test in SRT, comment down below. Leave me a comment. I'd be happy to do so, just for the sheer length of this video. I didn't want to go ahead and have you guys sitting here all day waiting for the good stuff. The diameter of the rope will make a difference as well too. This is 9mm. This will be more friction. I also have an 8mm ResTech. That will be less friction. I would probably find myself staying in this orientation more often than not. I probably won't be entertaining an orientation other than this one in that case. But that's a personal preference of mine. And again, you should be testing this yourself if you were to pull the trigger on this device to see exactly what's going to work best for you and get comfortable with it, so that you know when it comes time to get down from the tree, especially when it's getting dark, you know exactly what you need to do in this case. So when this would get wet rope, that's the other thing that's really great about this. You see, like, the options I have. If, say, I know that this is fine for me for a nice hot summer day and I just want to get right out of the tree, if it were to pick up and rain, I know that I can even from here just add more wraps, or I can go right back to this orientation as well, knowing that that's going to be about roughly 5% of my body weight and effort. When it's wet, it will go up. It will take the friction down on this. I didn't do the wet test on this one in this video, again, just for the sheer length. But if you want to see a wet test on this and do the same thing, I am more than happy to do so. Please comment below. Let me know. If you want to see it, say, hey, Mike, please, wet test, SRT. I want to see it. I want to get an idea. Just before it'll help me make the decision on my purchase. That's what I'm here for, guys. Please let me know. I'm happy to do it for y'all. So that's essentially, those are all the things I really like about the device itself. That's all the testing. I hope that helps you get a better feel for what I'm getting at when it comes to the amount of effort being used. That's a big component to me. Being documented and having an implementation that doesn't require a ton of effort, it should feel like I'm able to do it with fingertips with the right amount of weight. So that's enough of talking and jabbering on it. Let's wrap this up. Let's get myself up in the tree and let's see this sucker in action there.